We wanted to share some tips, suggestions. We all know that exam writing is such a calming, relaxing, stress-free experience. And I've raised sarcasm to an art form. Uh, Exams are stressful. And the problem with stress is when you're stressed, we forget things. Things that seem very common sense in a low stress environment are suddenly overwhelming in a high stress environment. So we wanted to share some tips and suggestions for trying to bring that stress down. I doubt you'll ever eliminate it entirely, but maybe we can trim a little bit of the stress out. Really, the best way to prepare is practice. The practice cases that you're doing week in, week out are very similar to the complexity, the level of detail, the level of difficulty that you can expect to see on the Core 2 exam. The multiple choice questions in UWorld. No, you won't have the exact same questions, but that practice with multiple choice questions, practice writing the cases, you get more and more comfortable with the process, and it's just one less thing to be stressed about, or it reduces the stress a little bit. Really good idea. Practice some of this under exam situations. You have 3 hours for 75 multiple choice questions. If I'm doing the math correctly, if in my head, which we all know that accountants can't do math in their head, but that's 25 questions in an hour. If you only have half an hour, do 12. Uh, but how practice some multiple choice questions in the time that you would have to do that many in the exam. Practice practice cases with 1 hour and see how well you do. A lot of us have some really nice home setups. We've got multiple monitors, we've got the big size keyboard, and we throw our computer halfway across the room in the example. Uh, but you don't have that in the exam. All you have in the exam is a laptop, the single screen. Do some of your practice cases just using a laptop, just using the single screen. What it does is it simulates those exam conditions. Familiarity takes away a lot of the stress. We are less stressed in familiar situations. So the more you can mimic that exam environment, takes away a little bit of that stress. Practice cases, print them out. Like Erin did with the example that she walked through. That's very similar to what you would have in an exam. You've got the printed case, make your notes on the printed case. It feels a little more like a real life environment. That familiarity helps a little bit. And as Erin pointed out, be honest with your debrief. Debrief your cases. Go through that feedback guide because, as I pointed out, it really helps you to start thinking the way a marker thinks. You start looking for the things, you start writing the things that a marker would look for. And be honest in marking yourself. In the example that Erin walked through, candidate describes many of or includes many of the elements in the calculation. I had two. That's many. Be honest with yourself when you're going through and doing the marking of the debriefing of your cases. It's very tempting. We've got about 3 weeks left before the exam. I'm gonna focus on doing nothing but cases, multiple choice question. I'm gonna reread everything. It's important to give yourself some downtime. Don't burn yourself out before you even get into the exam. Uh, all joking aside, exams are stressful. It's a high stakes exam. Give yourself a little bit of downtime. Don't burn yourself out before the exam even begins. Um, Always a good idea. Take a look at the exam regulations before you get to the exam center. And again, this is as much in terms of dealing with the stress as it is about making sure you follow the rules. Picture yourself standing at the sign-in table, you're showing your ID, you're signing everything in, and the person there says, "Wait, nope, you're not allowed to bring that in." Immediately, what happens to your stress level? Goes up. And you don't want that going into the exam. If you know ahead of time what you're allowed to bring, what you're not allowed to bring, don't bring anything you're not allowed. It's just that one less thing to be stressed about when you get to the exam center. Uh, on that same note, get there ahead of time. Uh, it's not an international flight. You don't have to be there 3 hours ahead of time. Uh, but you also don't want to be standing in, 12th person in line and it's 2 minutes before it starts. Come on, am I going to make it in time? Like, again, that just adds to the stress level. So get there a little bit ahead of time, sign in, sit there. Okay, that's a lot less stressful than waiting in line wondering if you're going to make it in time. I really, really don't advocate cramming at the last minute. What you often find that last minute studying, our brains work in such a way that the last thing we look at, especially in a stressful situation, our brain goes, this must be really important. And so it pushes aside all the stuff you already knew in favor of that last thing that you looked at. And very often that last thing you looked at will help with one multiple choice question. So don't cram at the last minute. Get a good night's sleep the night before the exam. You know, good breakfast that morning, cup of coffee, whatever works best for you. But that last minute cramming generally doesn't help anybody. Always remember, it's better to get the exam done than it is to get it perfect. You'll do better if you hit all the multiple choice questions, even if there's three or four that you had to go, eh. You'll do better on the case if you attempt all the assessment opportunities. As we've shown you with the calculations, if you have some small errors, not the end of the world. You don't have to get a perfect result to get a competent result, to get a passing result on the exam. And keep in mind, you're not alone. There's 40 some of us on the call tonight. Everybody is feeling the exact same way you are. Um, There's nobody coming into the exam absolutely prepared. Nobody's going to be blowing through this in half an hour and walking out of out of the room. Uh, Everybody has their own levels of readiness for the exam. Everybody has their own levels of confidence for the exam. And along the same lines of you're not alone. This is doable. It's not designed as an exam to fail people. Nobody at CPA was sitting there going, okay, let's see how many people we can nuke that. No, they want you to pass. They want you to earn it, but they want you to pass. It is a very doable exam if you're prepared for it.